Difference between Ten Hag and Arteta, though. Arteta, listen, the results were probably worse than what we're seeing right now. Let's be honest. However, you can tell because we reached the end of the tunnel with Arteta. You can see that he was okay with losing badly, and I mean badly, the first 2 years to eventually implement what he wants to do. Because listen, I wouldn't say he failed the first 2 seasons because clearly now he's done a decent team. Whether he wins the league or not, that's the ultimate success. We won't talk about that. But he believed in something. He had a vision, and eventually he got to that vision. At least is a style of play, and that's the thing that he achieved. Ten Hag has proven to me more than once. I used to call it adaptability. Now I call it cowardness. He's a coward, and he showed that in multiple instances. The first 2 games of last season, when we lost to Brighton and we lost to Brentford, he played a different style than what he played against Liverpool and moving forward. But he noticed in the first 2 games that he can't play a certain style of football. Let me adapt for what I have right now. That could be a good for short term until you get some fixes, until you get some signings. Here's the issue. He's added a lot of players since, but then he can't play the style that he originally wanted. So now he's saying, oh, I never wanted to play Ajax football anyways. Well, I beg to differ, because when I saw you put Eriksen in the false 9, that showed me what you used to do with Tadic and Ajax. That's the way you used to play. When you put Eriksen in the 6 against Brentford and he was getting overrun by their midfield, that's something you also do with Ajax. You try to adapt too much to what you have to the point that you eventually abandoned your original plan. And that's why he found himself caught up in between 2 ideas. Because first you wanted Frankie de Jong, then you wanted Casemiro. But then a year later, when you want to go back to the style that you could have had with Frankie de Jong, it's too late because you recruited too many players that are going to play the new style that you're playing, not the first 2 games. That's why when you sign Anthony, think of it, the first 2 signings he wanted, what was it? Other than Eriksen, who was for free, it was Lissandro and Anthony. These 2 players played a certain style in Ajax. When he went to play transition to accommodate for Bruno and Rashford, and you can argue Casemiro and other players, there's some players that he already signed and players that he already has that can't play that way. So now, not only does it look bad that some of the players that are in this team that can't play his style of play, now some of the players that he signed originally can't play the style that he's trying to do in the second season because you tried to adapt to some players, but you forgot about the ones that you signed. Casemiro, when he was being put in the 6 in the beginning of the season, trying to play him like he's a Basuma or a Rodri, well, he can't do that job. Listen, we can talk about the midfielders not being balanced and whatever, and they should be closer to him. We should be playing with a 10. All that is fine. But the fact that you're misprofiling Casemiro shows me that in the middle of you changing your thoughts and the style that you want to play, you forgot that some of the personnel that you signed can't play the way that you want to move into right now. Same thing as Anthony. You brought in a player who's not good in transition. We all watch Anthony here, and we can tell transition football is not his best ability. On the possession, you can argue because he was good at it at Ajax. Has he done magnificent with us? No. But even in certain games when we have possession, you can see his best abilities, not his best abilities, but better abilities. You signed too many players from 2 different styles that you tried to combine, but now they're getting lost. And this is why the Mount signing itself was the biggest indicator to me. And this is why I stuck by why I said from the beginning, there's no way you wanted to sign Frankie de Jong, and when it didn't work, you're going for Mount the next season because both are not similar. That shows me that somewhere along the way, you abandoned your original plan and you want to go with another one. And now he's seeing that even Mount that he signed for 60 million is not working because he's misprofiling him as well. To me, that on its own, by the way, the Mount signing on its own, that's a sackable offense because you spent 60 million on a player that a lot of fans did not want, and you insisted with it. And we were like, you know what? Prove to us that you're a genius and we're the idiots. And he didn't prove it. And you're leaving him on the bench in the biggest game of the season to play Scott McTominay. If that on its own is not a sackable offense, I don't know what is.
I think Casemiro...
To be fair to him, he's got to play his top scorer. He's got to play his top scorer in a Manchester derby.
I think Casemiro is the defining one. I think he realised last season he wasn't going to be able to play the way he wanted to play. And therefore he knew that Casemiro, for the way he was going to have to play that season, would work, and it did work. And I think without Casemiro, you don't get top 4, you don't win a cup. But I actually think that was a short-term, almost panic buy to suit the way that he knew he was going to have to play last season. Whereas I actually think he'd have been better off buying a lesser player that would have fitted how he wanted to play long term, missing out on top four, not winning a trophy, but having that more slow progress towards the end goal of what he wanted to build, rather than just, this isn't going to work, throwing Casemiro, which has ultimately, it's had one all right season, but long term it's not going to work.
Yeah, I think it's a really good point, and it's I get where you're coming from, Staffy, 110%, and I think the Mount thing for me fits into that. Onana again, a decent shot stopper, but we're not seeing him. We're not seeing his footwork utilized. In fact, he's barely finding people with his passing for one reason or another, and I believe that's down to shape and movement. He's just not. What way he passed that ball against City in the Champions League final compared to how he was passing the ball yesterday was completely different. And you also look at it this way with Anthony. I didn't. Not only did he misprofile Anthony in the sense of he can't play transitional football, the Glazers are partly to blame because he wanted Anthony when we could have got him for £40 million. But then when the price went up to 80 million, and by then you decided to change your style of football, you're wasting £80 million on a player that can't do the role that you want him to do because you change your style of football. These things are sackable. And again, if you'd have said yesterday that I'm trying to implement this is what I'm doing as a plan, I would have probably given him a bit more time, because I don't think necessarily sacking a manager is going to help us. But knowing that he's not trying to implement the football that made me fall in love with his style of football, there's no point to him. There is 0 point to having him.
I agree with you. Listen, I don't think sacking the manager is automatically going to make us a better team. And actually, let me rephrase that. It's not going to make us a top 4 team this season, or top 5, whatever you want to call it. We're not all of a sudden going to go on the run and contend for the league. That's not what I'm saying at all. However, that does not mean that I need to see a manager who is clueless on what he's doing, who's abandoning his plan, who's playing some of the worst football we've seen in a while. That says something, because I've watched some horrible football the past 4 or 5 years, playing some horrific football, wasting money, and not getting the best out of most of the players, especially the ones that he signed. All that is not an excuse for me not to sack him. There's a fine line. There's a gray area between being a very good team and winning the league and contending for the league, and being where we are right now, because we should be better than where we are right now. I 100% believe it. Do I rate all the players that we have? No. There's some of them that I want gone, and I've been wanting them gone for a while, and I feel like they're the reason. There's some of the reason that this manager is failing. However, it doesn't mean that I need to sit here and accept the fact that, hey, if we're not going to go for the league, let's just keep a crappy manager. I can't do that. You still need to try again. You need to go again, get another manager who's going to get the best out of the players that you have, because it is very evidential and very, very clear that this manager does not know how to get the best out of the players that he has and the players that he
Graham's
signed.
local, you know. Graham's local, bro.
Are you done being a joke here?
Graham Potter. He's there.
You gave me too much of your garbage. Listen, you gave me Mount. I didn't want him. Don't give me Graham.
Bro, you're what's the guy that works closely with Jim Ratcliffe? He wanted him at Nice, so he's definitely going to be an option. I'm not even bantering. I'm being serious.
Do you know what's funny about potential managers that come in for Man United? Genuinely, we shouldn't try and sign a manager who's considered elite, because we're not run well enough to quench their thirst. We're just not. But equally, if we go for a middle-of-the-road manager, which is the way we're run, we spend loads, but we don't spend it wisely. We're not run very well. If we get a middle-of-the-road manager to match the ambitions and the behavior of our board, the fans will cry. I genuinely mean this. The high expectations for our club should remain in terms of the way we're run. But we have got to lower our expectations of what we expect these teams to deliver under our current ownership. Man United fans have got to do that. And the pressure should be the owners to run things better. Not, I know we run poorly. Me and Lee Gunner had this argument a few weeks ago where he sort of said, you can't lower your standards, so you've got to demand the very best out of your team. Said, do you think this team can achieve that? He was like, no, not with your owners. Then why would I expect the team to win? It's nonsensical. The energy has to go towards the owners and how we're run. Until that point, I'm quite happy with a Graham Potter. I'm quite happy with someone who's middle of the road. It's not going to work either way, but I'd rather that than another top-class manager that gets us excited and we end up feeling fouled at the end. Genuinely, I'd rather Sam Allardyce come in than Zidane. because at least my expectations won't get up. We will kill Zidane at Man United. We'll be calling him Zinedine Allardyce after a few weeks. Big Zinny. It's going to happen because every player, every manager, every academy player who has come into this club, come through the ranks or been purchased in the last 10 years has regressed and gone backwards. That's why, as much as I think it's right to sack him because he's not going to implement what we all wanted him for. I get people want Rashford out. I get people want Bruno out. I get people want Sancho out. Anyone who is deluded enough to think we improve as a football club with just those actions has been asleep for 10 years. None of it overall works. It's deeper than that. However, that doesn't mean you should persist with this manager because the players look dejected. I don't really want to defend them too much, but we know they can perform better because we've seen it. All of your teams have been beaten by these players on a number of occasions. They can do it. It is plausible, but yeah, it's painful.
Terry, the question I've got for you and Staffy then, when do you think that it's gonna get to the stage where it's untenable? Because I agree with you, look, like changing the manager,
when we lose in Anfield, that's what happened. When I sit here and Tom here sits next to me and he dances on my grave when we lose to Anfield, that's when they're gonna sack him. Because I've seen this. What the last two managers, they always wait for us to get embarrassed by Liverpool, and then the manager is gone. It was Mourinho at first. With Ole, if you remember, they didn't want to sack him after Liverpool. They waited a couple more games until he got embarrassed by Watford, and then they sacked him. But it's happening again. Someone told me yesterday that the game that we lost to Liverpool at 3-1, when Mourinho benched Pogba, lost 3-1, and then he got sacked. That was the same date that we're playing them this season, December 16th. I'm seeing flashbacks, Larry. 6 years later.
We're playing them on the 17th this year. That's my birthday. So, yeah, it's going to all happen. This comment here from a United fan that says, Terry is smoking something. Allardyce over Zidane. Ten Hag only managed in a Mickey Mouse league. He won nothing. You've missed my point. It was a little bit sarcastic. But this is what and I don't mean it rudely, United for life. But there are too many delusional Manchester United fans that truly believe sack the manager and we'll be fine with a better one. And the reason why it pains me and it makes me cringe so hard I almost push my kidney out my arse is that this has been said of the sacking of the last 4 managers. And I was in a space today and there's people telling me that, no, Terry, we sack him, get a better manager. You were the same man that said that. You said LVG squad could win the league with a better manager. You said Jose squad would win the league with a better manager. You said Ollie's squad could win the league with a better manager. Man, I'm saying it again now. It's absolutely horrendous. I don't mean it rudely to this guy that's watching the show. I appreciate you watching. I don't actually think Sam Allardyce is a better manager. My point is that both will fail. But I'd rather not have expectations and get excited. Yeah, anyway. But yeah, I want to go to some of these super chats. There's been a lot that have come in. This one says, I'd take Elanga or Bebe back to get rid of Anthony. Lol.
You see how bad the standards are. Oh,
I know. When do you see the board making that decision? I think Staffy answered it right. Typically, it's when things look like they're dead and buried and they're over and there's no recovery. And what the most saddest bit is about our board, they always react once the season's over. What they really should do, again, remember, they know all this stuff that's coming out now before we do. So our minds will change for one reason or another when it becomes public or you see something different. They've known this. As soon as he said, I'm not going to implement my style of play, they should have sacked him instantly if they were good owners, but they're not. The Glazers won't sack him because they can't afford to, and the takeover nonsense rumbles on. What happened to this so-called Ratcliffe agreement? Well, of course, they're delaying it as ever. Apparently, since Fergie left, United have lost the same amount of games at Old Trafford compared to his 26-year period. It's true. It's true. I
can't even laugh at any home records, boy, because Brentford and he's slapping us at home.
I know. It's true. It's horrendous. This here says United recruitment has been atrocious for years. The last 100% successful signing was Bruno 4 years ago. It started well, but that was genuinely the last proper success was RVP 10 years ago. You're right. No one's a success. And the thing with Bruno, it started well, but he's phased out. So in the end, it's an unsuccessful signing. Ten Hag, we're on the way up.
It's in the job centre.
Yeah. The mandate from the top can be that Rashford is the main man and you can't drop him. You can't play possession football with Rashford. Same with Bruno. Well, then the man has to walk away. That's the case. Then you've got
or coach them.
or coach them. Like this is the thing. This is why, yeah, this is
coachable.
But no, but it's not. No,
It's not as easy as that.
I know it isn't as easy as that. But where I disagree is I see teams with much less technically gifted players play better football than Man United. The fact that we can't do anything against Sheffield Uniteds of this world and the Burnleys of this world and Copenhagen's, that's where I look at this as beyond just you can make those players play better.
Terry, genuine question.
You can't turn Rashford into Riyad Mahrez, different kind of players, but you should definitely be able to coach a team to be able to control the ball against Sheffield United. Surely.
That's true.
Terry, you know, with what you just said, so for example, De Zerbi at Brighton, their players are nowhere near as good as yours as a squad, but look what he's doing. Do you think if De Zerbi comes into your squad right now, he gets a better tune out of your team?
No.
He would, but he'd still foul at Man United. He'd still foul at Manchester United. I don't believe anybody would be successful with the way we're run, like what I consider success. I think he could make us play better football. I think Ten Hag could have done if it had stuck to his guns. I think it's doable, but you've got to be brave. You've got to be really brave and go through the tough, turbulent times. It's doable, in my opinion. I look at the Villa squad. I don't think there's very many players in the Villa squad that are exponentially better technicians than Man United, but they play a style of football that is light years ahead of us. That's just because the manager coaches them to be brave enough to do it. Burnley, I wouldn't sign a single Burnley player. They play better football than us. They just don't have the quality to put the ball in the back of the net. This is, for me, look, people can have their own opinion on Bruno, Rashford, and these guys. Just go and watch Bruno play for Portugal. Now that Roberto Martinez is there, playing a more progressive style of football. It looks quality. I watched their games on Viaplay. He looks good. He's never going to be Xavi or Iniesta, but he looks better for them than he does for us. And that's only happened in the last 10 games since the pragmatic, what's his name, Santos left. Like there's players in there. Bruno, I kind of want Bruno and Rashford to be sold, to go to other clubs, and then they're going to kill it. And we're all going to, in 18 months, we'll go, oh my God, why did we sell him? I know it will happen. The same as Sancho will go somewhere and kill it. And we'll be like, why is he doing well? Because everyone dies at Man United. We are literally a graveyard. That is what we are. We should knock the stadium down and literally become a graveyard. That is it. That's all we are.